your favorite humans. Welcome to Bronx Tales with your host, Bronxy B, and me. I'm Logan. Thank you for being here. We are keeping the pressure on the Idaho 4 case. We are not giving up until we have answers. Us and everybody else, all the other creators that are still talking about this, we're talking about it for a reason because we believe that everybody deserves answers and we want to get them. With that being said, I want to talk about this interview that Steve G did this morning on a show called This Morning, which is a British version of Good Morning America.
It's been a week since that plea deal has happened. I wonder what your first response was it and how your family have been coping over the last week.
I feel like we worked our tails off for 2.5 years for a certain moment for our time in court. And anything less than our peers being able to judge what happened was a letdown, and we're trying to wrap our head around the fact that one individual is able to determine what this justice was. And call us naive, but we grew up in a school system that told us that, our juries, our peers would be the ones that told us, decided what was guilty and innocent. And that's not how it worked. And
now, in the beginning, when Bryan Kohberger was first arrested, it seemed like Christy, at least, Steve's wife, Kaylee's mother, was pretty shocked at who they arrested for the person that allegedly committed this crime. And it seems like now that is starting to come back around for them. It seems to me, how I hear it, they think that maybe another person is involved and they definitely don't feel like they have the truth. And maybe they've been lied to this entire time by the prosecution.
The gag order, why are we doing a gag order? He pleaded guilty. We're still doing a gag order?
Does it also really feel even more painful, the fact that you won't get closure on it and you won't get answers?
It's worse than closure, people. What it's going on is, without him saying he's the sole person responsible for this, he can portray this victimization of himself. And right now, we've been sold out. We've been sold out in America. And for me to pretend like this is justice is it's beyond me. I can't do that. I can't wake up in the morning and be the same person that I am and not say that this is right or this is wrong. I'm going to stand up, and thank God for media. Thank God for people like you guys who can say, hey, if this is if not everybody's on board, let's talk about it. Let's hash this out. Let's get to some kind of agreement. So, they tried everything to keep me from talking to the media. And that's one reason why they were upset with me, was just because I was going to talk to the media. And I said, I'm going to talk to the media because they've been more fair to me than you guys have. So here I am, and we're at the end. But, thank God to your audience. Thank God to other people that they're interested, because without that, we absolutely have no chance of justice.
I think that a lot of people think that Steve G wanted the trial to happen so the truth could come out and everything would be revealed. But on the other hand, I don't understand why he's demanding this trial, because he had a very, very large part in the leaks that happened. Had law enforcement not given the information to Steve G, it wouldn't have probably gotten out there the way that it did, which could have caused a mistrial and completely blown the whole trial anyways. So I'm not really sure why he thinks he can have it both ways. He wanted the trial so bad, but then almost ruined the entire trial, and now is still wanting the truth to come out and demanding a trial, saying that it's not fair that they didn't have a trial. You can't have it both ways. And speaking on Steve G, sounds like a lot of people are pretty upset. The Gonsalves family asked for funds on GoFundMe to help afford the stay at hotels and traveling and such for the trial. And now that the trial hasn't happened and isn't going to happen, people are asking for their money back and their donations back. And now the Gonsalves family are playing stupid, like they don't know how to do that, when it's actually quite simple. I'm just curious what they spent that $100,000 on, to where they haven't given anything, not a penny, back to anybody yet. I think it's safe to say that we need to really start digging into even further what was happening at the time that the plea hearing, the plea deal, caught traction and became world news. It happened so abruptly, so quickly, and I think we really need to dig in what was going on just immediately previous to this plea deal coming about. We had just had the DoorDash Molly McMichael videos come out, and we just had the alt perp and the continuation denied by very strange language by a judge who completely showed how biased he was. Those were the main things that were happening prior to a plea deal being discussed or even agreed upon. And I think we need to dig into what was going on in those instances further, because I feel like some of that might had something to do with not only the defense asking for a plea deal, but the prosecution agreeing to it. I think part of that has to do with they really thought this Molly McMichael was going to come out and be this huge boom of a witness. You know, oh, we've got another person that says she saw Brian there. Oh, he is toast. But then when it got out and they saw how much people did not credit what she said or her as a person, I think maybe changed their mind a little bit. And I want to dig deeper into that. A lot of people are commenting on Brian Kohberger and how he has no emotions. And, you know, most of this comes from the guilters. He doesn't have any emotions. He's stone cold. How can he do this and not have one iota of emotion on his face? But then turn around and say, Brian Kohberger took a plea deal to save his parents from having to testify. I personally don't think that has anything to do with it. He would have known the whole time that his parents were going to have to testify. He can't be a stone cold killer and have no emotion on his face, but then give two shits that his parents have to testify. It can't be both ways. And that's why I don't think that's the reason at all that this plea deal was asked for or agreed upon. Speaking of the plea deal, really, what did the prosecution get out of this? If it's a deal, it's a deal, right? Both parties are getting something out of this deal. But the prosecution didn't get anything out of this deal. In fact, they pissed everybody off and looked like a freaking laughingstock. So what did the prosecution get out of this deal is what I think we all need to be asking ourselves. They didn't even ask for the murder weapon. They didn't ask for anything in return, because trust me, just a guilty plea, that's what they were trying to do anyways. That's not a deal. A guilty plea is not the deal. There has to be more to the deal. Take us to where you threw the weapon. Tell us something. That would be part of the deal. And that didn't happen. So we really need to be asking ourselves, what was the motivation for the prosecution to take this deal? And again, along the lines of this deal, this plea deal, that Brian Kohberger literally signed his life away as the human being that unalived 4 people. He is signing his life away. This is one of probably the most important document he will ever sign in his life. And they didn't even have the date correct. That is a huge problem to me. Some of us or some of you guys might blow it off like, I mean, everybody was there. We know what date it was. And, you know, he crossed it off. And no, you guys, if the date on renting my library book is wrong, they will reprint it. You cannot tell me that this wasn't done without being noticed for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but there is more to that. I really do believe that. There is no way that this document that literally took away 4 people's lives and another person who will be locked up for the rest of their life, and they can just put an X through a date. Absolutely not. If this document was completely legitimate, they would have reprinted that paper, because that would have been in high importance. I don't even think they would have crossed it off and put their initials. I think they would have reprinted it. This is a court document for a crime where 4 people's lives were taken, and now this person will be in jail for the rest of their life and 3 more after that, plus 10 years. you bet your ass they're going to want that date correct on that document. So we need to be asking why that was overlooked. Was it on purpose? Is it for another reason? We need to be asking these questions as well. Now, I know that some people on the guilter side have been really irritated and upset that Brian Kohlberger could write a book or let his sister write a book or Joe Schmo do whatever and he make money off of this crime. And other people have brought up, no, there's the son of Sam law, which means that people that are guilty of a crime, found guilty, or admitted to a crime cannot make money off of it. However, Idaho does not follow this law. So, yes, Brian Kohlberger absolutely can make a pretty penny on any information he wants to share. So I think it will be important for us to pay attention to if he does share anything or not. If he doesn't, maybe that's telling us he is working towards appeals and he's not going to say anything to jeopardize any of that. Because somebody who really did commit this crime, I feel like if they speak on it and make money off of it, that might admit more towards leaning towards somebody being guilty without saying it. So I think it will be important for us to pay attention to if Kohlberger does have somebody write a book or he writes a book or anything so he can get rich while in prison. I've noticed lately that several people are back to digging into some of the evidence that was taken from Brian Kohlberger's apartment and home in Pennsylvania. And one thing that has been brought up a little bit lately from other creators is the book. If you guys remember, there was a book taken from Brian Kohlberger's home in Pennsylvania, not his apartment in Washington, but his home in Pennsylvania. And in this book, they specifically wrote that something on page 118 was underlined. Now, a lot of people are digging into this, thinking, trying to figure out what book it was. Was it a Ted Bundy book? Ted Bundy? Or what kind of book was it? Was it a book by somebody else that had super importance on page 118? And I think we need to continue to still think outside the box. He was in his parents' home in Pennsylvania. We know that his mother was very into or intrigued by or fascinated by the crimes of Ted Bundy and Ted Bundy himself. Could this have been a book that was just at his parents' house that maybe his mom had purchased a long time ago? And when she was doing research on Ted Bundy or anybody else, she underlined it and he was just reading the book as something to do to pass time? Why does it's in his parents' home. Why does it have to be specifically his book that he underlined? We don't know that. It could have been his mom's book, his dad's book, anybody. It could have been his sister's book. And somebody else underlined the page. I get why people look into these things, but sometimes the answer is much more simple. I think it's interesting that Drip Drop from Crime Circus brought up that Brian Kohlberger looked like he had a tan during his plea hearing. Because strangely, I actually thought the same thing. I'm going to post right here where I actually texted my mom right after the plea hearing and I said, why does it look like Brian Kohlberger has a tan? Like he hasn't been spending all of his days in prison or jail for the last, 3 years almost. I find that a little bit strange. They don't get time outside usually in county jail at all. County jail usually doesn't have a rec yard. You do your rec inside usually in county jail. I've never seen a county jail where you get to go outside. So the fact he's in county jail and has a tan and his hair looks a little bit lighter usually from the sun, I do find that a little bit strange. Why does Brian Kohlberger have a tan when he's been supposedly in jail for the past almost 3 years?
And of course, we are now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. I think we can all look to our own cars, in those compartments in the doors. We try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless.
Bill Thompson made a statement when he got up there to read his little paper about this crime and had no details in it. However, he did read off of this piece of paper, and there's something that he said that I think either I'm taking wrong or other people heard it wrong and I heard it correctly. I'm not sure which one it is. You guys can let me know in the comments what you think. He was talking about Brian Koberger's car, and he said a statement that was along the lines of, it was pretty much disassembled. It was so clean, we didn't find anything in it, and there was even a bucket of cleaning chemicals next to it when they seized the vehicle. Now, everybody else is taking that, for the most part, as Brian Koberger's car was disassembled so Brian Koberger could clean it, that he disassembled the car to clean it, and that's not what I heard. What I heard was that the prosecution or the state disassembled Brian Koberger's car when they seized it to find evidence, and it was so clean that they didn't find any evidence in it. That's what I got from that. Now, let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but I heard that the state disassembled his car to try and find evidence, but it was so clean they couldn't find any evidence. Now, along those lines, Bill Thompson also stated there were cleaning supplies next to it. So you're trying to tell me that this person who allegedly went in and unalived 4 people with all of that red stuff everywhere waited 6 weeks or longer to clean his car, waited till he had his father in the car and drove all the way to Pennsylvania to then clean out the evidence of the car? That's what you were implying, Bill Thompson, because you said there were cleaning supplies, chemicals, cleaning chemicals in a bucket next to the car, insinuating he waited till he got to Pennsylvania to clean his car. Nobody is going to wait 6 weeks or longer to clean out their vehicle from a quadruple homicide. Not only that, I don't believe at all that a person could remove 1,000% of every speck of DNA after unaliving 4 people and it being all over you, and you get into a car and you think you're going to be able to remove every ounce of that DNA out of that car. Impossible. No way. Absolutely no way. I think Bill Thompson even insinuating that is just silly. Like, do you hear yourself? That sounds absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. And if we pay attention, Bill Thompson is insinuating that this crime happened in literally 4 minutes. 4 minutes for 4 people. Not only that, but walking in, walking out, having a full-blown fist fight with one of them, chasing one of them, sitting down in a chair. It can't, I don't understand how people can't see this. You cannot do that in 4 minutes, nor do I think one single person could do that in 15 minutes or whatever they had the timing before. That's just the thing, you guys, is how much of this evidence has changed and changed and changed. And then we see now in the plea hearing, it's changed again. And they all but stood up on the prosecution side and said that Koberger was innocent. I mean, that was the next thing for them to say, because the evidence as they described it, they literally said, but we don't have evidence of this. But we aren't insinuating this. It wasn't sexually motivated. Well, then your claim of the motivation of being an incel is out the window. So what is the motivation? What are these answers, you guys? We need to be looking at these answers. Something is not right here. Something is not right with the whole thing, all the way down to the document where he signed his name and crossed off the day or the month. We need to get to some of these answers. This is ridiculous. There is absolutely something much bigger and much deeper going on. We are going to continue to keep the pressure on this case to get answers. At the end of the day, Whether you're a guilter or a pro-burger, we all want the same thing. We want answers. And Brian Koberger saying nothing but yes and guilty is not doing it for me. I still need the proof because I don't think anybody has it, including Brian Koberger. Before I leave today, I have heard through the grapevine that Brian Koberger's mom is dealing with some heart issues. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but if she is, we obviously understand why she is. So if everybody could just think about Brian Koberger's family as well. Of course, everybody's thinking about the victims and their families. Nobody's trying to talk bad about the victims or their families or be disrespectful. We too just want answers. That's all we want, because from the information we've been given thus far doesn't give us any answers, and to me doesn't even point to Brian Koberger as being the lone killer. That's what we have for you today. Remember, do something nice for yourself today. Be kind, but most importantly, be kind to your doggy. Bye, guys.